All right, we're going to give this a shot here. So, as you can see, this isn't my usual area. This is my office slash crafting room. Sewing machine there. Leather sewing machine there. Gershner's knockoff there. It's an actual Gershner International, but it's I call it a Gershner knockoff because it's not the American-made Gershner. This is where I do my sewing and leather work. Yeah, I do own a sewing machine. I own 3 of them, and I know how to use them. My daughter's mom kind of only knows how to hand sew, but I do leather work. I make my own holsters. I make my own knife scabbards. Anything made out of leather, I'll make a good attempt at trying to do it myself. So, anyway, that aside, so you see all my junk in the background, that's why. In the latest edition of the Blue Press, Spring 2022, there's an article in here written by a gentleman named John Klespies, whatever, talking about the neck sizing versus full-length sizing of bottleneck cases. The only component that this guy mentions in here by brand is the brass. He says he's using Lapua brass. He makes no mention of the bullets. He makes no mention of the rifle. He makes no mention of the powder. Makes no mention of his loading technique. His he does mention that he's reloading it on a RL 550, probably a C version, not a B version, whatever. But this just brings me back to, one, I didn't want to read this article to begin with because I know that neck sizing is just, it's outdated. It's an outdated technique. We've got quality dies now, and we've had them for about the last 20 to maybe 30 years. You could buy a Redding S die that was a full-length sizer and a bushing die all in one combo. And that die, the reason why there's an S on that is because of Thomas Speedy Gonzalez, who developed that die with Redding's help or in collaboration, however the heck he did it. But he was the one that came up with that system, and it proved itself on the bench rest circuit. And every technique that we have for reloading quality ammo, reloading the best match grade ammo we can get, it all comes from the bench rest shooters. So why would you ever want to deviate from what these gentlemen have worked so tirelessly for to prove what works? This is why we have electronic scales. This is why we have powder tricklers. This is why we have things like the RCBS Chargemaster, and this is also why I have V4 of the Auto Trickler Auto Throw, which is now a double trickler setup on a lab quality scale. This is why we do these things. And if you want to go back to this BS, feel free to, but you're going to set yourself up for a lot of problems. He does caution people into don't do this with a semi-automatic rifle. You can neck size in a bolt-action rifle, and I'll even say that that's incorrect as well. You can neck size for a bolt-action rifle, but only for so long. The brass gets to a point to where it's not going to fit the chamber anymore, and it's usually around firing 3 or firing 5. I know this from personal experience through thousands of rounds of 308 in my PRS gun, and which became an F-class gun, and then became a 6XC PRS gun dedicated when I built my 2 6XC F-class guns in pairs, one for my daughter and one for myself, through thousands of rounds of this stuff, you don't neck size only. That is just a insanely bad practice. And what it's going to cost you, it can cost you accuracy, because the cartridge is not going to be sitting in the exact same place in the chamber. Not so much for alignment. That almost has nothing to do with downrange accuracy. What it does have is where the neck shoulder junction is pressing against the inside of the chamber. And if there's any kind of a donut on the neck or anything like that, that's going to upset some accuracy or pinch the neck onto your bullet and increase any sort of neck tension, well, that's going to increase your pressure in the cartridge. And that's going to cause you all kinds of downrange accuracy issues that you'll start seeing at about the 600-yard line and pushing all the way out to the 1,000, because that's where all these things really start to rear their ugly head. This is why we also say that if you have the opportunity, do your load development at 200 to 300 yards, because a 100-yard group, while telling to a degree, if you're new to this stuff, we kind of need that magnification to be able to really see the pattern and see what's developing. So as you get better at reloading, and as you get better at understanding what your rifles and your loads are doing, yeah, you can step back to the 100-yard line and start printing groups and start judging things at that point. It'll work that way, but you're going to need some experience at that level to really understand what's going on. But shooting at 200 and 300 yards, as everything starts to expand out, because everything's going out that cone of fire, that spread, it gets a little easier to start determining what's doing what and why. It really starts getting easier, because everything is, the errors are magnified, so you can really see what's going on. And like I said, when you get to that point of having the experience, you can then go ahead and step back to the 100-yard line and do all your testing at 100 yards, because once you know how to read a 100-yard group, this is for smokeless bottlenecked rounds, and maybe even some smokeless straight wall rounds only. This isn't for the black powder cartridge stuff that I also do. Black powder cartridge, you want to shoot at 200 to 300 yard for testing, because there is so much going on with black powder cartridge. You're really not going to see the full effects. You're not going to be able to read any groups. You're not going to see what's really going on that stuff at 100 yards. You need to have that at 200 to 300 yards to really start discerning what's going on. My gripe is this guy didn't put anything in here about what components he was using. He mentioned what press he was using. He was using a RL 550, probably a C, not a B. And then he mentioned he was using a 308 Winchester bolt action. Doesn't say what rifle it is. So it could have been a Savage. It could have been a Tikka. It could have been, a Borden Precision with a Bartlein barrel. Or it could have been an off-the-shelf factory Remington, for crying out loud. What the hell are we dealing with here? And what the hell chamber specifications are we dealing with here? See, this is just gibberish. This article is complete and total rubbish. It's garbage. There's zero useful information in this thing whatsoever. And all it is proliferating this complete and total. People are going to read this thing, and I'm sorry, because I'm getting so pissed off, I'm not even finishing my sentences. People are going to read this stuff and go, oh yeah, that makes sense. That makes so much. No, it doesn't make any bloody sense, because this is not a scientific test. This is the kind of garbage that I was doing when I was freaking 22 years old. Because I didn't know any better. This is not how you test. This is not how you test. You need to list what conditions you were shooting under. That means weather and wear and humidity and everything else as a baseline. What's your bloody rifle that you're using? What's the barrel? What's the round count on the barrel? Who cut the frickin' chamber? What reamer was used? What kind of lead is in the frickin' chamber? Okay. Is it a factory chamber that has a mile deep frickin' throat? Or is it a match chamber that was set up for a specific bullet? And oh, by the way, what bloody bullet did you use? Did you use one with a boat tail or a flat base? Was it 175 grain? Was it 168, 162? I mean, at least we know it's a 308, but that's it. What the hell was it? And then the guy has the audacity to post his group size. Like that bloody matters. Unsurprisingly, the best groups were amongst the first I shot. Yeah, maybe. After you got a little recoil shy and you started to flinch, that goes to show you what your experience level is. Because I learned that one firsthand. Yeah, you'll get behind a rifle and you'll shoot a bitchin' group. And then once you figure out, oh yeah, this gun recoils and I've got a flinch problem, and then you start flinching and then you start pulling shots, and it's like, until you start getting enough trigger time behind these guns and you start learning these bad habits you have and controlling things, then you'll start to shoot better, more consistently. But before fouling began to reveal itself, mildly interrupted there by a phone call, but we'll get back to what we're at. So anyway, as I was saying, this guy has the audacity to put up his groups in this article. And sorry, I'm looking down. I'm reading the article. It says, unsurprised, the best groups were amongst the first I shot. And like I said, that just goes to show you that there's recoil control issues and flinch response maybe and other things like that, because unsurprisingly, the best groups were amongst the first I shot before barrel fouling began to reveal itself. He's shooting 3-round groups. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He shot 24 rounds, if that's all he shot. If this is exactly what he shot on here. So 3-round groups, 8 3-round groups. And if your barrel is fouling and causing you accuracy issues in 24 rounds, that barrel is trash. And you need to pull it off and go stab it in the ground in the backyard and use it to hold up a tree or a tomato. Okay? It's just, that's junk. My factory Remington 308 barrel, the 5R that was the stainless 5R barrel that came factory on my Remington that I bought in like 2014, 2015, something like that. That rifle, I could shoot that thing 400 or 500 rounds and I would never see the accuracy drop off. The accuracy was not that good to begin with. The gun would not print a group consistently below a 1/2 inch. It would always print a 1/2 inch to a 5/8 group at 100 yards, but it would never, I would occasionally get a 3/8 group, but it wouldn't do it consistently because I could get back on the rifle, excuse me, back on the rifle with the same loads and same conditions, same everything, and it refuses to group below 1/2 inch. And it just prints out a whatever group it wants to shoot. So to me, that gun was a consistent 5/8 minute of angle, 3/4 minute of angle. It's a good shooting rifle, especially if you're, going off of what you learned in the 1990s about these mystical 1/2 minute of angle rifles being, $1 million and levels of expertise unknown to men and, fairy dust and magic wands being involved in the construction of the barrel. And now we figured out it's like, oh no, you can with some expertise and some skill, you can build a 1/4 minute of angle rifle with not a whole lot of effort. The barrel quality, the bullet quality, the consistency and the components and everything else we've got nowadays, I mean, there's no reason why you can't build or have built a bolt-action rifle that's capable of printing a 3/8 minute of angle group quite easily. And then you got to step up a little bit in in your bullet, or in your rifle rest and your rear bag and your stock and bedding and things of that nature. This guy posts these groups, and his worst group here is 0.71 inches. He said his full length size is 0.639, 0.67, 0.71, and 0.673. So you know what? I was wrong. He only shot 6 groups. He only shot 6 groups. I counted his average as being a group, so he only shot 6. So that's only 18 rounds fired. If your barrel is fouling at 18 rounds, that barrel is significantly trash. Again, I don't know what there's no mention of anything else in here that he fired to go, oh yeah, well I warmed up the barrel and I did that. No mention. This is not scientific. This is not how you do this. This is simply magazine filler, okay? Because this isn't even a magazine. This is their catalog that has articles in it. The Blue Press is probably the most true to form magazine on the market, and I say magazine because that's what this actually is. This is not a product catalog. Because if you go and get a copy of Guns and Ammo, you go get a copy of Shooting Times, if you go get a copy of Handgun or Reload or whatever, I guarantee you the article to advertisement ratio is going to be pretty damn close to what this is. So this is less of a product catalog and more of a magazine based on what is currently available to the general public. Now, does that mean that they actually intended to do that? No. What they intended to do was to produce a product catalog with some helpful articles in there to explain how they use their products and explain how the process works, and oh, by the way, we found this, and oh, by the way, we found that, which is what all these, what I call gun rags, have turned into. Especially things like Guns and Ammo and Handgun Magazine and garbage like that. They are a package of paid advertisements broken up in between by a handful of articles. Some of them well written, some of them like this, complete and total freaking rubbish. So anyway, back to this. So this guy, he prints nothing in here on his components used, nothing in here on scientific method, zero. And then he just goes on and on about, obviously this test made me a fan of neck sizing. However, I'm remiss if I didn't clarify its downfall. The fraternity's happy little accidents that I mentioned earlier. I didn't, First and foremost, while hand loading is the best craft for personal ammunition, practice may take the personalization process a step too far for some shooters. Neck sizing brass is very literally fire formed to one specific rifle. So if you're bulk reloading the same cartridge for use of multiple firearms, it is not the route for you. Well, no kidding, because guess what? Neck sizing brass used to be a method for fire forming brass to the rifle that you were going to shoot in a bench rest competition. There was no, you would never do that for bulk ammo. That is just the lunacy of this freaking article. This guy's a complete idiot. If you only own one rifle chamber for .308 Winchester, therefore this is a non-issue world. For the guys who own a walk-in gun safe, that's maybe a deal breaker. It's just complete and total rubbish. So let's talk about why you don't want a neck size. And you don't want a neck size because of the number one reason is at some point in time, your brass, your cartridges are going to refuse to chamber. You have to bump the shoulder back at some point in time all your F-class guys that are, if you go to the Nationals and you go to the Southwest Nationals and you take page 1 off of that, and you go and you talk to each and every one of those shooters, I got a $100 bill for anybody who can find me one that can honestly say neck size and neck size only, and do it continuously for their loads for F-class. I guarantee you they don't. They're using widened dies, worn dies, or they're using redding, or like me, we're using redding style dies, or even redding rebranded dies bought by David Tubb. We're doing that. We're full length sizing. I am full length sizing, small basing my 6XC for my F-class rifles, and a lot of these F-class guys are doing that now. The first page, your 20 to 25 to 50 shooters on that first page, like at Southwest Nationals, they close off the registration at like 250 shooters or something like that. It's an amazing amount of people that show up to shoot that match. It's insane. I've never been able to get tickets to the dang thing, get registered for the dang thing, because so many people attempt to shoot there. It's crazy. So, but go get page 1 off of the Nationals or the Southwest Nationals, and you find me a person on there who neck sizes consistently for their match ammo, and I got a $100 bill waiting for you, and because it's total bullshit. Nobody does that. You might find a guy on page 3 at the very bottom of the shooters, that still does it, that hasn't learned, and his results are showing. I made that mistake too. I thought neck sizing was the thing to do, and I could never get that consistent group. My groups did not start getting more consistent from shot to shot, to group, from day to day, week to week, month to month, and really start developing some confidence in these rifles and confidence in these rounds until I switched to 6XC and started full-length small base sizing with a neck bushing and controlling my shoulder bump and controlling my neck tension. So you're going to run into accuracy issues you're not going to be able to close the bolt on the gun at some point in time. The case is going to stretch to a point to where it's not going to work. You have to bump that shoulder back. So that's one aspect. And the problem with that is, if you're doing informal shooting and you're just out at the range having fun, well, that's not a big deal, because you can just open the bolt, drop that round, throw another round in, and continue on. You're not on the clock. It doesn't matter. If you're shooting F-class, that's a problem. Now you're burning time trying to fix an issue. You ain't got time to burn. It's less of a matter of time in F-class because you've got 22 to 30 minutes, depending on which string of fire you're shooting, and depending on if you're shooting unlimited sighters or if you're shooting 2 sighters and 20 shots per record. It's less of an issue for F-class because you've got a good amount of time and you can just fire a little quicker along the line there to help recoup a little bit of time there. The problem is you spend too much time screwing around with your gun, and guess what? Now the wind has changed, and now you don't know where the hell you're at with your hold. And if the wind doesn't happen to come back to a condition that you're comfortable shooting in, and if you're not good at judging wind, you're shooting sighters again. I hate to say it. You're shooting sighters again until this, until this problem resolves itself, where you can start going, oh, okay, well, I held center and now I'm off to the frickin' right in the 6 ring, I need to hold way over here. You lose where you're at. So there's a point there where now this thing is costing you points. Now this process is costing you points. And it's upsetting. And then you get flustered. And that frustration, it doesn't go away. And if this is the first day of a match and you've got a couple days and 5 more strings of fire to go, this thing could haunt you for the rest of your match. And it's going to psychologically be there, screwing with your head and making you doubt every single shot you fire. There's a whole lot of stuff there to be said about having confidence in your gear. A little short story. Years ago, I read a book. Bill Dance, bass fisherman. He had that damn TV show. But in one of his books, and what you have to understand, and this all comes in, you can talk to any of the people on the U.S. rifle team. You can talk to Larry Basham, the guy that with winning in mind. Winning is a mindset. You don't go to a match hoping to win. You go to a match to confirm your win. You've already won the match. You just have to show up and prove in front of God and everybody that you can do it. And that may sound cocky to some people, that may sound arrogant, but that's the real fact of it. That's how much confidence you need to walk onto the range with. That's the kind of level of confidence you need to have. You've already done this. You just need to get down and actually do it. There's no arrogance to it. There's no arrogance to it. This is what these guys do. And and they're not perfect. I've seen world-class bench rush shooters have bad days. I've seen members of U.S. Rifle Team have bad days. It happens. You get your bad days out of the way at local matches, and you get your bad days out of the way at practice so that you become better and more confident, and you remind yourself to do things right when you're at the match where it matters to get things done. But this Bill Dance thing was, he had mentioned that throwing certain fishing lures, he would have more confidence in, he noticed that in his techniques of fishing, that he would have more confidence in a certain bait, and that confidence played a part in his ability to win fishing tournaments. And and the way he explained it was, you would fish the bait longer, you would try harder to make that work, and you would do your ever-loving best to do your part. And it's because and it applies to shooting rifles. You go out and you get behind a garbage gun with garbage loads, and you don't have any confidence in the gun or the load. You can really just throw to the wind. Well, I'm not even going to try to make this good because I know it's going to be bad. Well, you've already given up. You've already lost at that point. You've absolutely already lost at that point. You'll never extract the best out of your equipment if you don't give it your best behind your equipment, whether it be a fishing rod and reel or whether it be a rifle or handgun for that matter. I'm getting more into handgun shooting. I am such a terrible freaking handgun marksman. It's not even funny. I just never really put the effort into it. But yeah, I'm gonna start doing that because I'm going to apply for a concealed carry permit, and I need to do myself and do the people around me justice that I plan on protecting by being able to carry that gun and be able to use it confidently in my carry. But that's beside the point. The whole thing is, you got to have the confidence in it, and if you don't have the confidence in the load and in the rifle, you're not gonna put forth the proper effort to extract what this thing is capable of, and that's a huge issue right there. The other issue with this neck sizing thing is it causes sticky bolts, because you'll have a round that'll chamber fine. You fire it, now you can't lift your bolt handle. And now you have to put a tremendous amount of effort into lifting the bolt handle or banging it upwards to get the damn rifle to unlock and get that round out of it. Now you've just completely destroyed your foundation, your position. You've spent all that time getting comfortable, building that position behind the gun, getting the gun settled in to the bags, getting everything settled in, get the front rest settled in, rear bag settled in, get the rifle settled in on the front rest, get the rifle set in on the rear bag. Everything's settled in, not moving around, and now you're over here banging on the bolt handle trying to get this thing to open up to do its job. Every neck sizing die out there for competition use should be melted down and turned into trinkets. It's just bad. But this, my whole thing is this piece of rubbish. There's just no science. I'm sorry. I mean, there used to be a writer, Rick Jameson, very, very scientific testing in what he did. He didn't have a shooting tunnel, but he did have a building with a stack of 55-gallon drums to suppress the muzzle blast coming off of his rifle. He used Owler ballistic computers and chronographs and things of that nature. This is all back in the day, back in the 80s and 90s, when that was the best equipment guys like that had. I can't say we because I only could look at that stuff and drool because it was so bloody expensive. And I was making a whopping $6.50 an hour to, so I could just look at this stuff and drool and just go, oh my God, I want, and but I can't have it because I ain't got the money, But he would go through and he would list every component, every group, every velocity, what the rifle was, if he tested it in multiple rifles, every piece of data for every piece of equipment he used was there. He even went through and said, okay, I was using my Owler 35P chronograph, or I was using my there was a ballistic laboratory they used to have that you could plug into a PC back in the day, because this was all pre-laptop days too. I'll tell you how old this is, because the recommendation for the computer to use to plug into this thing was an IBM or IBM compatible 486DX, and I don't remember I think it was supposed to have like 512 megabytes of RAM back in the day, because that's what they were. It's like, yeah, that's old. This is not a scientific test. This is fucking rubbish. Excuse my language. It's just absolutely rubbish. But people are out there, they're going to read this thing and go, oh, well, maybe I should give next time. And all this is going to do is get people to spend money on garbage equipment and waste money on components. And they're not going to do well. This is just going to, and it's going to confuse the crap out of these people. Well, why? No, stop. Okay? Bench rest shooters don't even neck size anymore. They haven't done it since the frickin' 70s. That should tell you something. If you want the best accuracy out of a rifle for bench rest, for F-class, for PRS, for NRL, God forbid our military and police snipers, for crying out loud. If you want the best level of accuracy out of this stuff, don't bloody neck size. Full length size, preferably with a neck bushing, preferably with something that has a neck bushing that also allows shoulder bump. Control your bump on the shoulder. 2 to 3 thousandths is a good spot to bump a shoulder back. You'll find a nice little sweet spot, but at least 2. Doesn't have to be more than 3, but at least 2. Tolerances don't have to be that great either on this stuff. Keeping tolerances within 1 thou on this is great. Neck tension. If you want to use a neck bushing and then a mandrel expander, go for it. All you're going to do is increase the consistency of that neck tension by using a mandrel expander. I don't use a mandrel expander. I've gotten good results with just using really good brass and a neck bushing. Works fine for me. I've got 6XCs that can print a .1 group. My daughter can shoot a .1 group. That's bench rest standards. So why would I try to do anything more to screw anything up? It's shooting good the way it is. When things change, if things change, then I'll change. But you know, I'm not gonna worry about that. So, but all I see, my whole reason for this long ass rant, and I do apologize. I'm going to go through and edit a bunch of this garbage out to try and get the time down to something reasonable. This is the kind of garbage that just creates confusion in this reloading world that we have. You know, I could go on for an hour, or shoot, I could go on for days on, because I mean, there's so many different levels of reloading. I'll give a quick one on that. So I reload for handgun, I reload for rifle, I reload for precision rifle, and I also reload for black powder, and I'm starting to reload for shotgun. So on my handgun stuff, I don't care what the brass is. I don't care what the primers are. I'll mix primers. I'll mix primer. I'll mix primer brands. I'll mix primer lot numbers. I'll mix between Magnum and standard primers. I don't care. I don't care if the brass is dirty. Obviously it needs to be clean enough to function, but that's it. It doesn't have to be that good. I don't trim handgun brass unless it's absolutely necessary, and I sure as hell ain't checking bullet diameters and everything like that, or bullet lengths or any weird garbage when it comes to handgun stuff. Handgun, I go and I sit down and I reload it, and if the powder charge is off by 0.2 of a grain, I don't care, because it doesn't flippin' matter on the paper at 25 yards or less. I don't shoot bullseye pistol too much yet. I will later. Then I'll start refining loads for the 38 Super to do that, but that's not a huge thing. So for me, handgun ammunition is literally cannon fodder. It's get it in a box so you can go to the range and you can get it on a frickin' IPSC A target. That's it. It doesn't have to be any bloody better than that. My general rifle loads are built nearly, god dang it, garbage in the eyes, sorry. My general rifle loads are built about the same way. Brass might be a little cleaner. I'm going to pay a little bit more attention to which primers I use. I'm going to pay a little bit more attention to which bullets I use and powders and things of that nature. But unless it's going in my M1 Garand, where it has to fit a specific burn rate and specific powder charge and bullet weight and things of that nature. Anything else for like the 30-30, my 7x57, even the 458 lot, 416 Rigby, it doesn't really matter to me. I don't care. Now my 6XCs, the 408 Shytac, and the 308 Win Mag that I reload for my uncle, those have to be made to the absolute best level of precision that I can muster. The brass is prepped perfect, and powder charges are weighed on the lab scale with the V4 auto trickler, and bullets are sorted, yeah, so there's, it all depends on what the hell you're doing. So this whole, reloading and all this does is confuse people. Do you need a guy who's going out to shoot? And the ridiculousness of those groups. 3/4 of an inch of a freaking group with a 308. Come on, man. That's not accurate, dude. Here's the other thing with this. He did this once, and he's saying I'm changing my ways with neck sizing. I'm changing. Wait till you get on shot 3, 4, or 5 on fire forming this and neck sizing only. Wait till you get shot 3, 4, or 5 of this and see when this neck sizing only really starts to rear its ugly head. And then you go, why won't my ammo work? Why can't I close the bolt? Well, can't say I told you so, but I told you so. Okay, guys. Hopefully I can get this edited down to where it's only about a 20-minute video. Have a good day. Happy Easter. Go out and shoot an Easter bunny. They're moving around slower. They got to carry that damn bag of eggs, and they're real easy to spot in the bush too with that pink bow in their hair. Take care, guys. 36 minutes on this section and 20 minutes on the other. That's an hour-long bullshit. Jesus criminy, I gotta fix that. I don't like dragging this shit out, but I get long-winded, and it just goes. I apologize. But it is what it is. I got to do better on staying on task, staying on point with this shit. So anyway,